Seconds.
It's been 3 weeks since we returned from the UK to report about the detainment of autistic children, and since then a lot has happened. For example, Acadia has fired their CEO, Joey Jacobs, and we have been reporting on the situation. And we actually had a former employee of an Acadia facility who left their position thanks to our reporting reach out to us. We went and visited that source, and we found out some pretty disturbing information.
Almost very unconscionable things were expressed to us by that source and former Acadia employee, in which they noted that the quote-unquote warehousing of children was occurring, as well as the certain state this hospital and this employee, director level, was employed in, is treating undocumented immigrants on the dime of taxpayers. And I think that that's something that is pretty common, as we saw in the UK.
In addition to that, we're housing these children for $650 a day, state paid. On top of that, with no school during the duration of their stay.
And
so
that's
no
not
education
a concern
during that entire period.
One thing that is also very important is that, yes, we found that the NHS in the UK is providing a very outsized number for the housing or warehousing, as has been said, of autistic children and others with learning disorders, in which Ian Burrell and ourselves have reported on just like 3 weeks ago. And Ian put a great piece out on Sunday in which they're still working to try to get regulators to do something. Today with us also is our other colleague, Dom Bickus. And Dom is someone who is served within the banking community. And we noted a few weeks ago that the ownership of Acadia has seen a dramatic shift over the last 3 years, in which the insiders, or the folks that started it, have sold most of their shares. And now, what does the ownership look like? What is it? And if the taxpayers are worried they're funding it, are investors really that are investors out there that have called us and questioned us, do they have a reason to be concerned?
Well, yes, they do, Penn, and that is a great point you guys bring up here. Today, as it stands, Acadia Healthcare is more than 98% institutionally owned. Now, what that means and who exactly owns Acadia Healthcare happens to be indirectly the pensions and 401k plans of our American population.
So like my mom's, turned 60
like your parents and your grandparents, indirectly, without really knowing, are the, in fact, owners of Acadia Healthcare. And take a look at their cap table. You have companies like T. Rowe Price, BlackRock, Vanguard, JP Morgan, Dimensional Funds, all large players within
JP Morgan Chase. Now that doesn't mean, for instance, like it's not the local branch, but they do a lot of services. It's the largest bank in the world. And while we're not in a position and do not accept this as investment advice, a lot of folks would, however, want to know that the investments we are all making, our parents are making, or those that are in these funds are socially responsible. I think that's fair to say. It's important to ask whom, and whom out there do you ask?
Absolutely, and that is the number one thing we want people to take away from this, is really to take a deeper dive and a closer look into what your 401k investments might be made up of, what your pension investments might be made up of, because you will realize that through these different mutual funds or ETFs that most individuals' retirement assets are in today, passive investment vehicles, some or major portions of these may or may not be in companies practicing such unlawful practices.
I think that one of the important things, and I thought, given Dom, I mean, your family legally immigrated to the U.S. from Lithuania many years, I guess it's been, almost 20 years ago, but to the Chicago area. And a lot of the folks that are legally in this country are able to go, make a complaint with the state. But I think the language barrier was discussed by this source. How did you take that, and kind of what are some of the insights you saw from that?
Well, I think it's troubling, and I think it's challenging, because often individuals, specifically minorities, simply will not know where to go or simply won't know what it is they can do about it, and they are not going to know what questions to ask because they might not feel knowledgeable in that topic. So I think the most important thing that we can do and the three of us can do here is really try and spread awareness and have people give it a thought and give it a second thought to really understand what exactly is going on here and what exactly is fueling the crisis that we have here on our hands.
And that's the last point before we close. If you have something that is needing a voice, Katie is working on a new project, what we call Treatment Truths. And Treatment Truths will be a portal and a voice. It's a very cursory project, but we're working to get it out there as quickly as possible and provide a safe place for folks that have had experiences other folks need to hear, because you're right, people need to know where to go.
Yes, Treatment Truths will be a way to spread awareness about the state of the behavioral health care and treatment industry by sharing the stories of victims and their families, and therefore providing awareness so that people can really do their due diligence into what's going on.
Thank you really so much and you can check out today's article on seekingalpha.com. And I'm glad to be able to report it and have a great team. And we're working very hard to try to really bring light to this and fix this problem.